The other day, one of my comments got hearted by both Daniel Green and Murphy Nafier. So, I feel like it's pretty safe to say that all my friends are booktubers at this point. Fun fact about me, I actually watch too much booktube considering how much I actually read. And don't get me wrong, I actually read a lot. I read every single day before I go to bed, and I'm always reading at least 2 books at the same time, one fiction and one non-fiction. But still, I have enough books on my want-to-read list that I don't think I'd need book recommendations for the next maybe like 10 to 20 years. And yet I just keep adding more and more books indefinitely. I think that's just a part of being an avid reader. Like, you pretend like you can read as much as you want to read, and then you select more books that you want to read, and then you never finish them, and you pretend like you can read that, and then you actually start reading more, but then you want to read more, and that's just an infinite cycle forever. If you feel like that's you, then close this video and go read a book. No, I'm just kidding. Wait, stop, don't go. Wait, let me get you a deal, okay? In this video, I'll try to convince you to read one of these 5 books, and I promise you that these are worth your time. And they also have the potential to change your life, so yeah. The books I selected for this list are books that I've read over the last couple of years, and that I selected because they really left an impact on me, and I think they are worth reading. This to the point where I'm dedicating this whole video just to tell you that you should read one of these, or, you know, all of them. I try to include 5 books that are very different from each other, so anyone will have something they can select and start reading right now. But before we actually begin the video, and I'm sorry guys, but I gotta say it every video. Like every video I watch on how to be a YouTuber, they tell you like you have to say these things. So yeah, here I am again, I'm sorry. In case you do not know, I am a 3rd year psychology student, and this is my way to tell the world everything that I learned during my degree, and I try to translate it to a way that I find interesting, and I do the best I can so it's understandable for anyone of all ages and creeds in the world. And let's just begin the video, shall we? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like below, and I would really appreciate it if you considered subscribing to the channel if you enjoy content like this and you want to see more. Finally, don't forget to ring the notification bell. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to be notified every time I have a new video just for you, which is every week, by the way, on maybe Friday, maybe Saturday. I'm thinking of maybe changing that to Friday instead of Saturday. I don't know, I will see. Anyways, every week there's a new video for you. And yeah, alright, without further ado, let's just begin the top 5. It's not a top 5, it's just a list. Let's begin the list of the 5 psychology books you should be reading right now. First up, book number 1, Stumbling on Happiness by Daniel Gilbert. This was actually the first psychology book I've ever read in my life. And if you clicked on this video because you're looking for your first one, then look no further, because this is a good one. I love the fact that it's about social psychology, which is one of my favorite subjects. But yeah, this book talks about a lot of different things. I think it's just interesting for anyone because it speaks about things that we do in our day-to-day, and it goes a little about relationships, a bit about like personal growth and why we feel things, and yeah, it's just a very interesting book. I mean, it will go over a lot of the stuff that you'll see just over and over if you read a lot of psychology. I mean, yeah, you'll have Harlow's monkey, you'll have the marshmallow experiment, but in case you never heard of those things, which was my case when I read this book, I guarantee you'll have an amazing time. Daniel Gilbert just writes in a way that's very easy to read, and he keeps you interested throughout the whole book. And yeah, he writes some pretty nice summaries, so you don't have to read the full papers to understand the content of the experiments you're reading about. Book number 2, Descartes' Error by Antonio Damasio. Yeah, I don't know if it's pronounced Descartes or Descartes or Descartes or whatever, but yeah, this is the title of the book. This one's essentially the polar opposite of Stumbling on Happiness. It's a great book. It's a genius book, but maybe don't pick this up as your first psychology book, because there's a chance you're gonna like flip out and wanna burn the book halfway through. Yeah, maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't know, but yeah, it's not an easy book to read. It's a very technical book, and Antonio Damasio is a neuroscientist, and he's a damn good one, but sometimes that can be kind of an issue for someone who doesn't understand anything about neuroscience. But why is it on the list then, if I'm not really recommending it for anyone, and I just said that this list was for anyone to start right now? Because it kind of depends. It depends on whether you're comfortable reading stuff you're not going to be familiar with, and if you're okay with the fact that sometimes you'll just read a page and nothing will make sense to you. You'll have to be okay with that. And sometimes it's not even just a page, it's a chapter, because this book wasn't written to be read by just anyone anytime. It was written like a full out paper, like trying to change the way we look at things. So yeah, it's very serious and very technical, but still it's very fascinating, and I'll do my best to tell you why, though I can't really do it justice. This book approaches one of the most important subjects of our entire Western culture. In this book, the author, Antonio Damasio, who is a remarkable scientist, explains why we shouldn't look at mind and body as two separate entities, because they always work as a whole, and we shouldn't ever separate them. And yet, especially in medicine, there's a huge stigma around anything that is cognitive or psychological. Like, imagine your leg hurts so much that you can't even walk sometimes, and you walk into the hospital and you say that to the doctor, and he examines you, and after all the analysis he tells you that, well, your pain is basically just your brain dealing with stress. Most people would get pretty pissed. And we really shouldn't be pissed, actually, because sometimes the pain can actually be motivated by stress, for example, or by something psychological that comes from within, because our bodies and our brains are just one thing that work collectively all the time in a kind of symbiotic manner, but not really, because they're actually like the same thing, not two entities that work codependently with each other, but they're actually the thing. And yeah, I know it's complicated, but I swear to you, it makes sense. And even though you probably won't understand like 70% of the book, I swear to you that at least you will understand the main point, and it will be worth it, like every page. Book number 3, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. This isn't a book about specific contents within psychology, but still it talks about social events, and Malcolm Gladwell writes in a very professional but still very easy to read way. Any book by this author, honestly, I think is very easy to recommend to anyone. I think that's why he's so popular, especially in the United States. Anyone can read his books, and his books are very easy to recommend, but I think Outliers was my favorite book of him. It's about what makes people have like extreme success, and I thought it was very interesting because we tend to think that successful people are like most of the time just born with talent and that's how things work, but that's almost never the case. Almost every single public figure that we look up to got to where they are by working really hard and were influenced by the time they lived in and the circumstances that they put themselves into, and that's how they got to where they got. I think it's in this book that he introduces the concept of the 10,000 hours to master something that is very popular among music artists and influencers and such. It's the idea that if you have to do 10,000 hours of one activity, so you're considered a master of that activity and you can thrive on it, truly thrive on it and be truly remarkable. Anyways, this is a very good book and I can't recommend it enough. Honestly, any Malcolm Gladwell book is just an easy recommendation for me. So yeah, if you're not sure about what you want to read next, then this is just an easy one to pick up, and you can read it fairly quickly as well. I think it has 200 or 300 pages max. Book number 4, Lost Connections by Hari. I first found this book when I was investigating depression and anxiety around last year, and I did it because we were stuck at home and a lot of my friends are prone to anxiety, and I wanted to know what I could actually do to help them as kind of the friend who studies psychology. I gotta say, I was a little worried when I started reading it. I was kind of thinking that maybe it was one of those,
you're strong and everything's gonna be okay.
And yeah, I mean, not that there's any problem with books like that, but that's just not what I was looking for. But thankfully this book actually surprised me. The author basically describes the steps of falling into depression, and in the first half of the book, and in the second half he describes what you can do to recover from that based on real life stories and things that he experienced himself. And this is actually not that small of a book. I think it has 350 pages and the letters are really small, and I just breezed through it in 3 or 4 days. I was liking it so much. So yeah, this recommendation is kind of very direct. If you want to read about anxiety and depression, this one's the book for you. Last but not least, book 5, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I gotta say, I really misjudged this book as well. I'm usually not a fan of self-help books, I just don't have the patience, and they all kind of have the same format, and that kind of annoys me, and whatever, let's just not talk about that. But this book is actually great, and I think it falls under the self-help category, but it's actually really great, and it has a lot of psychology on it, which I'm a fan of. I read this book on my Kindle, and whenever I read a book on Kindle, I use the highlight tool to like define what are the important things and things I want to remember later in the future. And if you look at my book, it's just like highlights every single page, like page after page. So it's safe to say I really like the book. And it's like I was saying, like every single page is full of awesome information. This book is about how habits kind of form most of our decisions throughout the day, and about how habits are kind of like the seed of all success. I particularly like one metaphor that the author used. He says that if you take an ice cube and it is 15 degrees Celsius below zero and you warm it 1 degree, then nothing changes about it. And if you do it again, nothing will change about it again. And if you do it again, nothing would change again. But once you get to the 0 degrees Celsius and it goes to 1, then the ice cube would just melt and completely change and become something else. And someone who was just observing, who wasn't doing the experiment, would just tell you that the ice cube sort of changed really fast for no reason. But if you're the person doing the experiment, then you're the only person who knows that you had to begin the change way before you actually see anything. And the author says that our life success is a lot like that. Like most stuff that we do and we want to have success with, we have to start implementing like these habits that will culminate like this thing that will eventually lead to us reaching our goals and achieving something and being remarkable at it. Like if you take exercise, for example, and you have the goal to get abs, it takes like a long time for it to actually show. Let's say like you have to do the same exercise routine every day for a year until you actually see the abs, right? And when they show up, most people will be like, wow, that just happened overnight. And you know that that's not how it happens. Like it takes like forming a habit and keeping it over a long period of time, and it actually never changes. It's always the same habit. It's not about the actual change, it's about the habit that you implement in your life. That just applies to anything. It can be your career, it could be like how many books you read in a month or in a year. You don't go from reading 0 books to reading like 100 books in 6 months. And this is why this book is incredibly interesting, and I recommend it to anyone who's kind of looking for self-improvement. Every single chapter has new ways to look at habits, and it teaches you how to adapt them, how to add new habits to your life, or even how to remove them. So yeah, if you're looking for a book that's more focused on self-improvement, this might be the book for you. And yeah, there you have it. These are my 5 books if you want to dive into psychology, maybe for the first time. I hope you found my list helpful and that you had fun in this video and that you picked at least one of these books up. If you do, please let me know. Alright guys, so that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you had fun in this video, and I will see you guys next week. Bye guys.